Hello to all of our lay Eucharistic ministers at St. James. I'm Rebecca DeNovo. I'm here with our new curate, Christina Miller. And she's going to help me as we do some demonstrations and a refresher course on how we distribute communion at St. James. We are making a couple of changes. Some things will be the same. But we thought it would be helpful just to sort of refresh our memories about how we do communion, because we are moving back to the high altar on September 11th. We will be receiving and distributing from the altar rail here. And so we wanted to just kind of go over some of those details. I have notes for myself. First of all, just a reminder that if you're a Eucharistic minister, we'll be coming forward at the beginning of the service. I invite you to just flank along the altar, and all of us will bow together. Eucharistic ministers will be going back to seats on the left and right of the altar in the sanctuary space again. So you'll be sitting up here. We will also be lining up to receive communion, if you're a Eucharistic minister, right after those gifts of invitation. The gifts of God for the people of God. When you hear that, that's your cue to kind of move and line up in front of the altar so that you can get bread and wine first. At 8 a.m., we're going to have just 1 bread and 2 wine. We're also going to move across both sides of the rail from at 8 o'clock from right all the way across. And we're going to, at 10 o'clock, have 2 stations and go from the wall and inward on both sides. We'll have bread, and then the intinction cup, and then the chalice. Now, when you come to approach to do this role, this sacred ministry, I just want to remind us of entering into this in a prayerful place. And I thought if maybe Christina could share a little bit about how do you approach communion? What helps you to stay in that prayerful space when you offer communion?
Yeah, I try to stay very aware of being in my own body and very grounded, and aware that I am also an embodiment of Christ, and I'm sharing the sacred presence of Christ with someone else. So being aware of my breathing, staying grounded, and taking my time with it.
I love that. Yeah, thank you for that. So just a reminder to come into this as this wonderful prayerful ministry that it is. Also sanitize your hands. So remember to do that. I suggest maybe at the peace, but if you forget, just do it before you distribute. Okay, so I'm going to have Christina come around and demonstrate, because the first thing whether you're doing the intinction or the chalice, the person with the first cup will be the intinction. You have to pay a lot of attention to the posture of the person you're approaching. So the first posture that you might encounter is somebody that doesn't want the wine, and they're going to look like this, right? Hands crossed. If you see that, you don't have to just ignore them. It's tradition to just say the words, hold back and just say, the blood of Christ, the cup of salvation, and move on, okay? The next thing you might see is they will have received the bread when you get there with the cup of wine. If the bread is just in their hands, it'll be like what we've been doing before. If you have the chalice, you will ignore this. The person who is intincting will take the bread out. And now do this like you're playing the game Operation. If you remember that game, you can't touch the sides or the buzzer will go off. You're just wanting to take the bread very slowly, get just the tip of bread in the wine. You don't want to touch the wine with your fingers. You don't want to touch the sides of the chalice. This is all hygiene. So you're just the bare tip. We don't want a soggy wafer. Nobody wants that either. It's just a little bit of the wine. And then you'll offer it right back into their hands. And I just encourage you, try not to touch their hands. Just say, if you kind of get the tip in their hands, the blood of Christ, the cup of salvation. And then they'll receive the bread at that point. So if on the other hand, you arrive and you see that, it's okay, pretend to eat the bread. They've eaten the bread already, but they look ready, like they want wine. Intinction, just keep going. Now this is the point where the chalice bearer will want to offer the wine. And this is a reminder of how we distribute wine. So first of all, I would encourage you to hold the chalice in your dominant hand so that it's nice and loose. You can kind of move it around as needed. If you're too tight, you can't bend. So you've got a nice flexible grip on it. The other hand has the purificator, okay? And you want to keep the purificator between your fingers, because this will allow you to shimmy it along and move it, because you want to keep this purificator moving so that you're not using the same spot on the purificator every time you wipe the chalice. This is more hygienic. Then you'll actually flip it over when you've gone to the bottom and start again from the top to the bottom and shimmy it. So I will approach, and I see she wants the wine. I've got this flexible grip. I've got my purificator between my fingers. I'm going to say the blood of Christ, the cup of salvation. Now, ideally, she's going to do this. She's very good. She's going to hold the bottom and guide it, because she's the one who knows when the wine is gotten into her. I can't tell. So let's pretend she didn't do that. Let's say you get to somebody and you're like, here's ready to go, and they're not touching it. Okay, this is a recipe for disaster. Please communicate. It's okay to talk during communion and say, oh, would you mind guiding the chalice with the bottom for me? And let them guide it and then give it back. Okay, just a nice loose thing. They're guiding it. You don't have to do the work. Feel free to talk. If you're really confused, you don't even know what they're doing, just ask. Oh, did you want anything? Did you want wine? Did you want a blessing? Figure out. It's fine to talk. Sometimes there's children and you're confused about what they want to do, and so you can ask the parents what the kids want. Just fine to talk. Just quietly to them. Just figure out what's going on. Okay, so after she's done this, here's just again a refresher. What you're going to do is you've got this purificator between your fingers. Wherever the person received, you're going to take, and you're going to go inside the chalice, in between, so that you're wiping with pressure both inside and out. You're going to then just turn it a little bit. You're going to shimmy that forward, and you're going to shimmy your purificator. So that every time someone receives, you're able to wipe, shimmy, shimmy. Okay, that's your pattern for each time someone receives. And you'll obviously say the words, the blood of Christ, the cup of salvation. Am I forgetting anything about that? Okay, once we have communed everybody at the altar rail, and also they might be standing or they might be kneeling. Actually, kneeling is a little bit easier sometimes, depending on height difference, because if you have a really tall person, but whatever. It's fine, they can do either one. You're just gonna do the same thing. When we're all done, we're gonna go out into the congregation for anybody who has mobility issues that can't come forward, and we're gonna go with them. So just sort of, you're gonna follow whoever has the bread out. The ushers will let us know who needs to receive, and we'll go and provide communion to them as well. When we're done with that, we'll come back up to the altar and place everything onto the credence table. If there are acolytes there, they can assist. You can hand it to them and return to your seat. And then we will finish up the service. And as we leave, we will again please line up, bow, and then walk out. Ideally, we'll be following the crucifer and the torches. Well, thank you, Christina, for being here today. Thank you, Walter, for helping us. And thank you for being a Eucharistic minister at St. James.